Welcome to my presentation. A few things I like about 12D field. In this presentation, I'll be covering a few things which I think are pretty cool. We'll talk about the dongle, exciting, the logging function within 12D field, the resection models, and I'll also touch on some improvements to the resection functions, the 3D string setouts, the simplicity in the tin setout for 2D and 3D based on some user feedback. I'll be touching on a cool way to set out. I'll be touching on some functions that are available to our Leica users. And I'll also be talking about some power search tricks. So quickly about myself, my name's Stuart Holway from Perth in Western Australia. Been using 12D for a little while. Still consider myself very much a novice at it, given the amount of capability the program has. I know many of the other presenters would have covered some of the things I'm going to touch on, so I'd like to say thanks to them. I'd also like to thank the other users for their input in improving 12D and 12D field, and most importantly, I'd like to thank Mick for his patience and hard work in implementing these requests. I know it can be difficult for him at times dealing with users such as myself. I'd also like to thank the other programmers for their support, and also the other users of 12D and 12D field who have helped me out countless times throughout the year. It's your support that has gotten me to a level where I do enjoy use of 12D field. So first we'll touch on the dongles. So all 12D field users know that our dongles start off looking like this. And after a few months of use in the field, they end up looking like that. So I'm pleased to report 12D now supports a newer style dongle, which looks like this. And I'm pleased to report after several months use, it still looks like this. So probably best to contact your salesperson in regard to that. They may be able to upgrade your dongle, I don't know. So one function that people may not know about 12D field is the significant events logging. This logs events to the job directory on significant occasions. When the instrument starts, it logs the temperature and pressure to that file. It also logs when you change a prism, when you change target height, when you start 12D field, when you exit 12D field. This helps users paint a picture of their time using it in the field, should any records need to be referenced as to job activities on, say, a night shift, a shutdown, helps build a picture of what the surveyor was doing. Now, we all use the resection function in 12D field, but not many people know that you can use Smart Find for the whole model, meaning you do not need to know what your first control point is to use it in the resection model. As long as all points are on the same model, 12D field does not support auto find between two different models. 12D will work out the location of the total station, not knowing what points the user on. It will calculate it itself. There is one thing to note though, is there is a tolerance if the target heights are the same. Sorry, the RLs of the control points are the same. It can flip the resection, but you'll be warned that, and I've only had it happen once. Additionally, we now have improvements to the residuals, also in the details as well. This is much clearer and much better. This is very recent development. We now have resection model. So as you can see, the blue is the resection of the station that was calculated. The green lines are the measurements taken, and the blue is the target heights. This under survey and setup visibility, you can choose the line style, the weight, and I believe, speaking to Mick, he was considering implementing symbols for different resections, be it an angle only, an angle and measurement, and so on and so forth. This is much requested, and I'm very excited to see this. Now I'm going to touch on the improvements to the 3D setout string function, mainly the renaming of basic string setout. Basically covers 90% of your work applications, and advanced string setout. So in advanced string setout, you have the ability to specify the 2D and the 3D changes, and also the height drops to be perpendicular to the surface or vertical to the surface. Furthermore, there is clarity as to the languages involved. And with this, it will also dynamically change between the changes of 2D and 3D as you watch this demonstration. Notice I changed the change to 3D, and the change type then goes to the 2D equivalent of that change. Additionally, you'll notice I changed the drop type between perpendicular and vertical. If you watch, pay attention to the delta height values, you will notice that they change dynamically. This also applies with the change increments. So with my change increments, it will dynamically change to the 3D change, and then you have the ability to switch back to the 2D change. This can be very handy when doing mechanical work, such as pipe work, and anything else where you require the 3D and the 2D measurements. Conveyors would be another example. A lot of applications for structural mechanical surveying. Furthermore, improvements on the next slide, you'll see that the changes of 3D and 2D is now much clearer in the surface setout. So tin setout has been renamed to surface setout. You can now set out a tin or a tri-mesh, and the drop mode is either 2D or 3D. The removal of the 2D with 3D and 3D with 2D, which was confusing some users, myself included. So in seeing this example, I am measuring to the same tin, and the values are, one is the 2D drop of 6.115 meters, and the other is the perpendicular or 3D drop of 5.863 meters. And if you do want both, you just do what I do and you run them both together. So I'm now going to talk about the a cool trick I like with a new create tri-mesh polygon function. As you can see in the screen, we have a wall bolt, and we have a column, and we have, sorry, wall plate, bolts, column, and we would like to set this data out. So how do we do this? So I'll select the create tri-mesh polygon from the utilities at the bottom there. That's it there. So with this, it gives you the ability to give what they call leaders. So that's basically the centroid from that face, and create lines. So as you can see on the screen there, it will dynamically create the lines for the center. That enables us to set out the bolts when we only have the 3D digital information, such as we do in this scenario. And so it's quite easy to create them. You just, and now I'll demonstrate the create the boundary function, where you create the boundary of the tri-mesh face. Again, this can be used for edge of bolts or any other IFC data, tri-mesh data that you are required to set out, given the way that that's going. So there we go, I've drawn the nice thing. I'll then move on to the bottom bolt, and I believe I select the center of the two bolts to make two more bolts, which I can then use for setting those bolts out. Bang, bang. We have two bolts quite easily created. That was only 30 seconds to make them, and the outside edge as well, as you can see there. From 12Z field, I'll then make the face of that column. Very easy. Some great work there from 12D to give surveyors the tools so we can set out these IFC items, which we are encountering more and more. My next is the Leica only, is the ability to turn off the electronic guide lights on loss of lock. This is something only 12D field can do. The standard Leica does not. So it can be very handy when doing night shift or in dark spaces. The guide lights automatically come on. 12D field has the ability to turn them off. It also has the ability to toggle them low, medium, high, and the toggle using the hotkeys. So I'd recommend people set that up. Next, we're going to cover the Leica searching. So the Leica searching has been broken up with the spiral search, which is the traditional search, the power search, and you've got your pointing power searches. So first I'll cover the spiral searches. That's the no power search is involved. The instrument simply turns and searches for the prism within the window. Quite slow and quite old. Next we have the traditional power searches with the swings left and right. We're all familiar with them. The one just starts the power search from that location. The other swings, I believe, at 6 degrees in the opposite direction, then commences the search. So most excitingly, we have the power search windows. In simplicity, there's two of these. There's the work area window and there's the cube. I'm primarily going to talk about the cube. So you see the blue line is the line that the instrument is pointing. Upon pressing the power search cube, the blue being the last area that the measurement was taken, the instrument will search for specified direction, specified measurements around that essentially cube and locate the prism within there. If you're using a tier 16 instrument with the filter learn, it will also ignore any prisms that were previously identified in the filter learn and only search within the user specified box. This is very handy, especially when you're working in tight enclosed areas and we don't want to wait for the instrument to turn around the whole field of view and often misses you. You can search in that. The other one is the power search cube as to where the instrument is currently pointed. So say you've got tracking on, so you've taken a few steps. You don't want to use your last window. You would use the current location of the prism. It will take the last measured distance and draw around that. Next, I'm just going to quickly touch on the parameters for the window search. So we have the maximum range and the minimum range. This can be very handy if we know we have banks of prisms, say for monitoring outside of our work site. So if we're only working within 100 meters and we have, say, monitoring prisms, we can, additionally below that, we're able to see the power search cube user values. So the search width, the height and the length of the cube that 12D will create around your either last known position or pointed position to do that search. So I'd like to finish up by thanking you for the presentation. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me via email on the forums. I'd love to answer any questions, talk anything regarding 12D or construction.